Welcome to Mindfucks with Mahara, where we flip your perspective, challenge your thinking, and leave you feeling surprisingly amazing about it all. I'm your host, Mahara, and this podcast, it's for the rebels ready to rage against their comfort zone, for those willing to flip their finger at mediocrity and sit in the fire of discomfort, knowing that's where the magic happens. Each episode, I'll share insights that might just blow your mind in the best possible way. So if you are ready to have your world rocked and your thoughts rewired, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back, Truth Seekers, to another episode of Mindfucks with Mahara. I'm Mahara Wayman, and today we're diving into something that probably makes you uncomfortable as hell, your anger. Yep, that emotion that you've been taught to keep small, stuff down, pray away, or meditate your way through. But what if I told you that your rage isn't just valid, it's fucking sacred? I know, hear me out. So here is the mindfuck and why it made its way to this episode. The anger that you've been trying to, love away, it's actually your soul's GPS system trying to point you toward your power. Mind blown yet? Stick with me because we're about to turn your rage into rocket fuel. I want to share with you a little bit about my own journey with sacred rage. For years, I was the queen of spiritual bypassing. Not sure if you're familiar with that term, but basically someone would cross my boundaries and I would be like, oh, that's okay. They're just doing their best. I'd get, screwed over in some manner with my work. And I would respond with, everything happens for a reason. It's okay. Truthfully, I was so committed to being, spiritual and accepting that I had completely divorced myself from my own anger. And the turning point came, you're going to laugh at this. The turning point came while I was meditating, if you can believe that. I was sitting there trying to breathe my way to enlightenment when this massive wave of rage came up. And instead of trying to, love and light it away like I had in the past, I finally let myself feel it. I couldn't not. And it was as if years of suppressed anger had decided to throw a party in my solar plexus. And bleh, God, it felt awful. But that was when I realized that all this peace and love stuff for me was actually just fear in a spiritual costume. I want you to sit with that for a minute. I was afraid of my own power. I was afraid of my own voice. And I've talked about this before. I was desperately afraid of my own truth. And my anger, it had been trying to wake me up that whole time. So let's get real about anger and the cycle that we go through with it. First, you feel angry about something, right? Justify it. You judge yourself for it. That's the tricky part. Then you suppress the emotion because we've been taught, most of us, or many of us, that, that doesn't feel good. It's not good. Just, be a good girl and dampen down that anger. The anger doesn't go away, though. It goes underground, way, way, way deep underground. And it comes out sideways. And you feel guilty about it. And the whole cycle repeats itself. Is this resonating? Well, here's the cost of falling into that cycle. Because every time you suppress your rage, your boundaries get weaker. Your voice gets quieter. And your power diminishes. And guys, I'm not talking about being outrageous and angry all the time and screaming like a banshee from the rooftops. But we want to be aware that when we do that, our truth gets buried and our soul gets dimmed. And we just don't want that, right? Here's what healthy anger looks like, because it is possible. So healthy anger looks like clear boundaries. I've talked about this before many times, actually. Setting clear boundaries for yourself. It's a gift for yourself and for the person or the group. Motivated change. So changing because it's what you want. And you can also think of this as focused action, right? It's coming from a place of authenticity, what it is that you want to have happen. And there's that word authentic again. But when you express yourself the way you want to, authentic expression. And last but certainly not least, it leads to empowered choices. Do you see where this is leading? Okay, so, I always talk about a daily check-in. When you are feeling the stirrings and the bubblings of your anger, ask yourself, what's triggering me to feel this way? What boundaries are being crossed, seeing as though we know how important our boundaries are, right? What truth do I need to speak? What am I running away from instead of facing? And also, let's not forget what action is being called for from me in this moment, right? We always have a choice. So here's some ideas to take away with you in navigating your rage. How would it feel if you created safe spaces for expression? You may have heard of this idea of having a room where you just break things, right? I'm not saying that you should, turn your living room or your bonus room into the breakup room, but you can move your energy in a safe space and you can move it physically, right? Maybe it's writing like a brain dump of letters of just rage, right? You don't send it to anybody, but you just get your thoughts down on paper. That's one way to do it. Maybe you can use your anger as creative fuel for that next sculpture, that next piece of artwork, that next song, that next poem, that next story, right? Use it to fuel your creative expression. And last but not least, I really love this one. What if you used your anger and channeled it into positive change? With all that's going on in the world today, I suspect that a lot of people are cluing into this idea of using their anger to make a difference in the world. How's this resonating, guys? I'd love to get some feedback from you on this episode so far. But here are some things that you can do to really honor your anger and to honor your anger's message. Set clear boundaries. I've said that one already. Take inspired action. Speak your truth. Oh my God, I've been talking about this for years. Part of being a badass is having the courage to speak your truth. What are you feeling in the moment? What do you really think about that idea? And own your power. Recognize that regardless of your circumstances up until now, you are freaking powerful, especially when you honor your feelings, all of them, even the ones that are uncomfortable. Hardest thing to do, one of the hardest things to do, I think, is to sit in this feeling of anger or anything that makes us uncomfortable. But I want you to know that suppressing your anger is kind of like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Have you ever tried that? Oh my God. You think you're being so cool, so funny, and all of a sudden that sucker's going to pop and it probably hit you in the face and everybody, laughed and screamed. But let's be real. All that love and light stuff is great. And I mean, I live it, right? But sometimes you need a little rage and right to get shit done, right? And that could be a right with an R or a right with a W. You get to choose. So here's some uncomfortable truths, though, about anger. And I always have a section on the uncomfortable truth because we don't want to ignore it. Some people won't like your anger, right? Some people may get really pissed off at you and not understand it, not give you space. Not everyone's going to understand the fire that may be lit underneath that anger. So they may not like it. They may not understand it. You might actually lose some relationships over it. And I mentioned this earlier, but you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. The result of all of this rage and anger and standing in your truth, your old identity may go away. And this may be the beginning of a rebirth of the real you, the badass you, the sacred you. It can be, and it was for me, really fucking fun. It actually was fun once I got over the discomfort of it. And every day I'm enjoying. I don't get that angry anymore because I just because, but this is a fun ride and I invite you to join me on it. So if any of this resonated and you're like, wow, that's kind of interesting, I invite you to stop suppressing your sacred rage and start using it as rocket fuel for your growth, right? That's what we're here for. If you're ready to alchemize all of that anger into power, then head over to my website and book a session with me. I offer free sessions and I'd love to help you recognize your rage and help you navigate and put it in a place where it really motivates you to take action towards your dreams. Okay. I want you to remember this. Anger isn't the problem. It isn't. Your suppression of it is. Ooh, how's that landing with you? This is Mahara Wayman reminding you that sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is to get pissed off. All right. Take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode of Mindfucks with Mahara.